Hello, everyone, and welcome to Battery Dance TV. I'm Jonathan Hollander, the founder and artistic director of Battery Dance, and it's my pleasure to be here on Sunday with our Dance Diplomacy with Jonathan, a series that we began back in March when the pandemic hit, and we've continued every Sunday since then. And this Sunday, we're part of National Hispanic Heritage Month. And so we really wanted to focus attention on the beauty and the engagement and the wonderful people of Colombia. So this interview is going to be in two parts, and I'm starting out with my friend and colleague, Mariana Suarez, who's a member of the International Advisory Committee of Battery Dance and has her own cultural entrepreneurship practice and has been very involved in supporting Colombian culture in New York and awakening us to the beauty and richness of Colombian dance. So Mariana, it's a pleasure to have you. You're not here in New York with us, you're in Paris. Is that right?
Yes. Hi, Jonathan. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be here with all the participants of the Battery Dance Festival and your channel. And thank you so much for this invitation. I'm currently in Paris, so it's evening here and it's afternoon there in New York.
Yeah, it's wonderful that we could connect this way. You and I came together and we began to work on a project focusing on bringing Colombian dance to New York. But this built on some work that you have already been doing. I mean, before you became involved with Battery Dance, you already had your own business of cultural entrepreneurship. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that's correct, Jonathan. Well, I've been in New York since the mid to late 90s. And ever since I arrived in New York, I must admit that, it took me a bit by surprise that when I landed in the city, people didn't really know much about Latin America. Basically, Latin America was Mexico. Everything there south was almost unknown. So I started working in the hospitality industry and for many years worked in restaurants and started doing a bit of cultural promotion through the hospitality industry. And then I got more into the cultural arts, focusing first on music and then performing arts, and ended up making my way into the promotion of Latin American music, dance, and the culinary arts. So that's how it started. It's been a career of, I would say, almost 20 years now.
So 20 years is a long time following this path. And basically, were you doing this as an individual? I mean, is this something that was like a self-starting pathway for you career-wise?
I started working first with a group of restaurateurs that actually gave me the possibility to have a platform. It was almost like what we would term a café concierto type of concept, where I started inviting musicians from Latin America to perform. So it was a little bit like a Blue Note take, but on a Latin American concept. It was strictly Latin American talent, and I just saw that there was a need in the city for artists from Latin America to have a place where they could perform and where they could show their art to a broader audience. So that's how it all started. And after that, I started doing my own business practices. Yes, after having worked with a group of restaurateurs, my career has been basically on my own with business partners along the way, but it's been as an entrepreneur all these years.
Well, it was so lucky for us that we met through a common friend, Vince Cipolla, who was then at Ballet Hispanico and also at the Municipal Art Society. And he said, Jonathan, I have a wonderful couple to introduce you to, Mariana and Brandon. Between Brandon's architecture, business, and vision, and Mariana's work with Latin America, I think that this is a good match. And it certainly has been for us. How about the dance field in Colombia? And I know it took about a year. I think you came to our festival, you saw what we were doing, and then you said, Jonathan, it's really time for us to work with Natalia Mesa, who I also will be interviewing, and pull together an evening of programming around the dance from Colombia. How did that come about? Did you already have those contacts in Colombia?
Well, Jonathan, throughout my life, I've always been a connector. So I've always, like spoken to people about what they do and have in my mind, how can I make something happen between this person and this other person when I see two people that I think would, make something even greater.
Mm-hmm.
So I've started always, thinking, how can I bring opportunities that I myself have been able to get from living in New York City to the people in my country? And having met Sankofa, for example, through some mutual friends, Lina Gaviria, which is now the Ministry of Culture in Medellin, in Antioquia, I saw them and I said, this is such a spectacular group. And I am just in dismay that they have not had more of an international presence. So I started thinking, what can happen? What can I make happen? It's never what can happen. What can I make happen? And how can I start looking for those contacts in New York that can help me make things happen? And thus came Vincipola in conversations within. I started telling him about my dreams or my vision. And Vince said, you have to meet Jonathan Hollander. And so here we are a few years
Talk
later.
about a great connector.
Exactly. That is, he is the connector. Every path leads to Vin.
Right.
So at that point, I started contacting corporations in Colombia. And, within the corporations, there's also the government support that is so important for these initiatives. And, within one contact to the other, it all of a sudden was able to be possible.
That's right. You brought us in touch with the Consul General of Colombia in New York, and you fused this relationship so that they helped fund the company Sankofa to come to our festival. And we have to say that our festival launched Sankofa, and the next thing you know, they were at the Joyce Theater. So you were the brainchild of this relationship, and the mama. You gave birth to this wonderful collaboration. And what could be better than to see a project go beyond what you even dreamed would happen? And I also want to say our audience, of course, is around the world, and there are people interested in dance. And I think it's inspiring to me, and it will be inspiring to them, to see that you as an individual took it upon yourself for no particular gain other than your own mission of bringing these cultures together and raising the profile of Colombian culture in New York. And look at the result.
Exactly. It's about raising the profile. It's about bringing opportunities to people that maybe don't have access to these opportunities because, again, of connectivity, which is something that we know very well is so important. And it's about the passion that I feel for my culture. And it's about wanting to share it with a broader audience. I want the world to know what Colombia has to offer beyond what they might have read in the press, or they might be still reading in the press. So it's all those elements combined that, with hard work and the help of many people around like you, that you believed in me. And you gave me that possibility, and you said, Mariana, here is this platform, here's this opportunity, and fly with it. And, just bringing all those elements together just makes it possible. And of course, there was such an amazing array of talent in a company like Sankofa that once you see it, you just know that, whatever is going to come out of that is only going to be so much better. And, having seen them have the opportunity of presenting at the Joyce, the first Colombian dance company to be featured at the Joyce, that for me was the moment I sat at the theater, or I walked through the theater.
You flew through the theater.
Exactly.
You
It,
were a foot above the ground, I'm sure.
well, I definitely had a foot above the ground and I had tears in my eyes of excitement.
So let's take a break and watch a little excerpt from Sankofa performing at the Battery Dance Festival.
Oh, I'd love to see that again. Thank you.
Mariana, that was just wonderful to see Sankofa, and I just want to thank you for everything that you brought to Battery Dance, that performance, and the spirit of Colombia in New York. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for obviously bringing this opportunity to me, for trusting me, and for giving Sankofa the stage in such a beautiful setting. And I must say that what you do and what the team at Battery Dance Festival do is just absolutely marvelous, and it should continue to be done for many more years to come.
Thank you. We hope, well, next year is our 40th anniversary, so we'll have to see what health conditions permit. But we showed this year that we could be nimble and could create a 52 film festival, that we never knew how to do a film festival before. So let's see what the future has in store for us. As dancers, we know how to improvise. So those improvisational skills will come into play again.
And the world certainly needs more of this cultural exchange. So that's something that we need to continue working on. And with the support of the audience, I think that it's possible to make it happen. So with everybody that's going to be participating in this interview and sharing this space, I know that it should be able to happen.
Thank you. And here I am again with a new guest, my friend and former colleague, Natalia Mesa. Natalia, it's great to have you here on Battery Dance TV.
Hi, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me. It's great
to meet you. You're uptown, I'm downtown, but we haven't seen each other since who knows what. The pandemic has prevented us from, getting around and seeing our friends and meeting our colleagues. So Zoom is the way to go right now. And I've just finished talking to your friend and my friend, Mariana, in Paris. And here we are with you. So since it's National Hispanic Heritage Month, and we were talking with Mariana about her background in Colombia and what it means to her to be working in New York, I'd like to start with you and tell us a little bit about your background in Colombia with dance. I'm not sure that I even knew what kind of dance you studied there and what sort of drove you to come to New York in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. So I started when I was 12 years old, and I started with ballet, classical ballet actually, and also I did contemporary. I did a little bit of Spanish dance when I was very young, sevillanas, and all of this was in an academy called Balarte, Escuela de Ballet, and I moved from that school to many different others. I had an injury in my knee. I ripped my LCA when I was very young, when I was 14.
It's so painful.
And, yeah, and then what happened there is that I realized that I wanted to do more things with dance, and this injury kind of opened other possibilities to me. When I went back to my training in ballet, it was very tough for me to maintain turnout, even though I kept on training. It was a moment for me to open to other dance techniques.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to also embrace much more the folk and the other things that my country had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So I did have some training in traditional dance, however, not as much as I would have liked to.
Mm-hmm.
I did contemporary dance. I was in a tango company.
Oh.
And
when we're getting to Washington, D.C. and Indian dance, we're going to see that
a
you
lot of
have
different types of
dipped
dancing.
your dancing toes into almost every form of dance there is.
That is true. I think that when I moved to New York, I went to Alvin Ailey,
Mm-hmm.
the Ailey School, and then I did the rigorous training of Horton, Graham, and more ballet. I've always done ballet my whole life. But yeah, after that, I just wanted to get professional in dance, belong to a company. I also was at that moment that I needed to get my O1 visa. That is what would allow me to stay in the US as an artist. So I was part of Dakshina Dance Company, and Dakshina Dance Company is located in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a blend with Bharatanatyam and modern dance. So I was hired as a modern dancer. They do pieces of Ana Sokolo.
Right.
So that was my initial entry point. Clearly not the Bharatanatyam, but it was very interesting for me to all of a sudden end up in another traditional and cultural form, which definitely has keep on shaping what I really, really appreciate about dance.
How long were you there in Dakshina in Washington?
I was there for a year and a half.
Okay. And then you came back to New York with the goal of studying arts management, or did that come later?
That was exactly why I returned to the city.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to develop my own projects, and always with this urge of supporting Latinx and Latin American dance. So in my head, I was missing a lot of administrative skills, and I wanted to get better at those. So I applied to NYU, to the Performing Arts Administration Masters, and I got in, and I came back to New York, and that's how I joined also Battery Dance when I worked with you.
Which year was that you came to us as an intern in the first place?
2013.
Wow. Okay.
It's already 6 years.
So you went through a lot of transitions. You graduated very well, and you became a member of the staff of Battery Dance, handling the Battery Dance Festival and the New York performance season. So you were, I mean, in a way, your internship prepared the way. So it wasn't such a, I don't know if it was a big transition or not for you.
No, I mean, it was very interesting for me to be at Battery. The whole time I was at Battery, my whole time, but at the beginning, I was still in the university and working in the studio as a studio manager. And
right.
Yeah. And
forgot about that.
Yeah. And then, but Battery was always a place where I could explore and could try new things, and also reflect what I was learning immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very interesting for me. It was very, very fruitful.
So let's jump to the time when you were managing the Battery Festival. We all met Mariana Suarez, and we began talking about focusing on Colombia at our festival. The way that we traditionally always focus on India, we said, why not, with this massing of talent and vision around Latin culture, why not have an evening of programming around Colombia. So you brought in Daniel Fatekwa, I believe.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about his work and the composition of that evening of programming.
So Daniel Fetequa, he is a he was a dancer with Limon Dance Company, and he had the privilege also to work at Pina Bausch contemporary dance.
In Germany, so he did, I mean, which came first, Pina Bausch or Limon?
Pina Bausch.
Pina Bausch and then Limon, okay.
Yeah. And Daniel is somebody that have always represent and have always wanted to showcase Colombian folk, but also the nuances of contemporary dance with the fusion of what he thinks is the contemporary dance world of Colombia, or like just bringing stories from Colombian people or from his point of view. Mm-hmm. So, and he has worked very hard in all of that. So I thought it was very interesting to have him next to Sankofa. Daniel, so Gabriela Chipola was actually the one handling the festival at that very moment.
I see.
And I recommend Daniel Fetekwa to Gabi, and Gabi went with me, I remember, to a performance, and we discussed. And Gabriela and Mariana, that were the force of the festival on that day. Mm-hmm. They decided that was a very good curation. So
that's wonderful. So after that, and after your transition to managing the Battery Dance Festival, you have transitioned to be in charge of community engagement for Ballet Hispanico. So in a way, this is like a closing of the circle. You came back to Hispanic culture after leaving Colombia, with different sort of spokes in that circle of working with Sankofa, working with Mariana, and so forth. So tell us about your work with Ballet Hispanico, and does that make you feel that you have even more of an avenue for promoting Latin culture in New York?
Yeah, absolutely. So the work that I'm doing at Ballet Hispanico, I am the community engagement director, and my main task is to celebrate and highlight Latinx culture and give representation, the closest representation to the dance forms. Mm-hmm. So Latin American and Hispanic dance forms are vast. There's not just one type of dance. so there's a lot of care in the curriculum and what we bring to the schools, to the public schools. And yeah, definitely for me has been very interesting to get to know more and more about my own culture, first of all, and then give of my own culture. So it's a work that really intersections those two things.
So it's been a very interesting year for you, because you started in July of 2019, and you would have completed your first year, but the pandemic hit in March. So how have you made that transition in terms of your engagements with the community?
Yes, so it has been crazy. So everything very sadly stopped very abruptly, as I think is common knowledge, in March. All of our programs have to be canceled. We had a program on March 13. So I do public schools, but the company also has programs nationally. Mm-hmm. And the dance company was touring and they were also doing a program during the same timeline with a lot of people. Like,
were they
public
able to
performance.
continue the tour because the COVID
They finished the tour, but they came back on those dates, very close to everything closing and all the anxiety that New York was having.
That must have been really anxiety producing.
Yeah, it was a very anxious, as I'm sure it was for you as well.
Yeah.
And
Well, at least we completed our major tour of India in January, which was very lucky because, of course, you know, everybody faced major cancellations. But we thought, oh my gosh, what if that tour had been like 2 months later? All the work that goes into these things. So I'm happy for you and Ballet Hispanico that you were able to complete that tour.
yes, they were able to complete the tour, and they were doing a lot of classes in Carmel by the Sea. They were doing a huge educational program there, and yeah, I would like to see those pictures again to see where we were at that moment. But so to answer your question, the transition, the cut was abrupt. There was no programming in the summer for us. For my department, the School of Dance continue doing classes and summer intensives. They were
online,
able to jump online and do it. For my side, we are starting to do, we did one workshop with incarcerated youth, with former incarcerated youth. And the experience was great, even though it was through Zoom. It was a moment of connection. It was when the pandemic in New York and when the pandemic in New York was at its peak. So I think that just that moment of getting together and just breathe and just dance was an outlet. But
for everybody.
For everybody. Now we're working on, we're about to implement programs again in public schools, and hopefully, but everything we're gonna do it virtual. So right now we're not doing any in person. So that is the transition, basically.
Right. Okay. Well, this we'll have to check in with each other in a few months and see where we are, see where Battery Dance is, where Ballet Hispanico is, where Natalia is going with her career, which has gone through all of these transitions. It's very enlightening, I think, for our audience around the world to understand what your transitions have been and to see how successfully you have managed these various different platforms for your involvement in the culture of Colombia and the ways that it can play out here in New York. So thank you so much for being part of this interview, Natalia. It's a pleasure to see you. And I hope that we'll see each other in different circumstances very soon.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure for me to be part of it. And as always, Battery has a special place with me. So I'm happy that the activities that you are doing are also giving fruits, and that people are really following you.
Thank you.